This is part of a greater story, many versions of which have been told throughout time. Long ago, when there were no seals, walruses, or other animals in the sea, and the Inuit were the only people on the land, there was a young girl. This girl has been given different names. Some indeed are afraid to utter her name. But here, today, we will call her Sedna. Sedna lived a happy life with her mother and father. She was a spoiled and demanding daughter. She was independent and often wandered for days out on the land, walking, picking berries, and collecting lichen, instead of doing her chores at the camp. As Sedna came of marrying age, many fine young men asked to marry her. But Sedna always found the smallest reason to turn them down, much to her parents' frustration. Then one day a tall, mysterious man came to the village to seek her hand. He made her many promises to entice her. He offered her his home, every comfort, and to live with him on the island of birds. He said, "You will come with me to the island of birds. There you will always be happy. The birds will wake you gently every morning and sing you to sleep at night." After days of persistence, he finally persuaded Sedna to go to his island and be his wife. They traveled 5 days and 5 nights. On the 6th day they entered the harbor of a floating ice island which was guarded on both sides by enormous polar bears. The floe edge was covered with flocks of birds, and many more birds lined the shores. They had finally arrived at the island of birds. Once they were alone on the island, her husband revealed to her his true form. He was not a man at all. He was a great bird spirit. Sedna was terrified, and she was trapped. He had deceived her and did not keep the promises he made to her. He left her alone to sleep in a large nest on a cliff with only a few feathers to keep her warm. She was cold, hungry, and lonely on the island, and she missed the comforts of her parents' home. She cried from morning till night. Her parents heard her cries on the wind and set out in a boat to find their daughter. They found her, still weeping, and took her away in their boat. Soon after, her husband, returning to his nest and finding her gone, set out to look for her. He changed into an enormous black raven, swooping over them, screeching, crying, and beating his giant wings like thunder. The wind and waves slashed and boomed against the tiny boat, whipping the waters into a frenzy. He made it almost impossible for them to keep their boat upright. Sedna's parents were afraid they had offended the great spirits of the sea and that the boat would turn over. They were so afraid that they threw their daughter, whom they loved so much, into the icy, thrashing waters to save themselves. Sedna fought to get back into the boat, her hands reaching and clawing at the sides. But when she struggled to hold on, they would chop off pieces of her fingers, one joint at a time. Finally, unable to hold on, Sedna sank into the depths of the sea. But so great was the evil against her that she began to transform. She began to become more powerful. As each joint of her fingers fell into the water, they became part of all creation. Parts of her fingers became the seals, the walruses, and the whales. And Sedna became the goddess of the sea, the giver and keeper of all sea creatures. But Sedna's suffering did not end there. To this day, all the broken taboos and wrongs against nature of the people fall through the water to collect on Sedna's hair and body like dirt and grease. When the accumulation is too great, Sedna sobs in pain, and all the sea creatures gather around to comfort her. For the Inuit, there must be harmony with the Great Mother. When things are out of balance, when she suffers, so will they. And so they sing to her and give thanks for the animals she provides to them, to restore the balance between the above world and the below world, between the people and the sea creatures, between themselves and the earth. And when the cries are no longer heard in the waves, the animals end their vigil, returning to offer themselves again to the people as food, clothing, and shelter. Sedna is generous and forgiving. Knowing this of her, the Inuit are inspired to maintain the balance. To the Inuit, survival is determined by the land and the sea. We are all interconnected, the earth, the ocean, each other, and all of our non-human relations. Inuit cosmology does not include dominion over nature. Rather, we are in an intricate web of relationships, and the balance must be continually renewed and maintained.